The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wide and high like a cathedral of glass and steel, its walls glowing with soft lights that shifted like the stars themselves. Banners of 100 species hung above the curved rows of seats, colors and symbols of civilizations older than memory. Voices echoed across the chamber, layered, strange, some deep and rumbling, others high and sharp, alien tongues mixing together in a chorus of impatience. The center of the hall was a wide circle of polished stone, the place where delegations came to speak, to argue, to decide the fate of billions, and today the humans sat there, silent and cold, their dark uniforms a sharp contrast against the bright robes and flowing garments of the other races. Their faces calm but unreadable, their eyes heavy with something no alien could name. For hours the council had argued, words thrown like weapons, promises offered, threats whispered, treaties unfolded like fragile paper. But the humans had not spoken, not once, they only listened, their silence more frightening than words. The chamber grew restless, whispers spreading through the tiers of alien seats. Why won't they answer? Are they refusing? Are they planning something? The humans sat still, their hands folded, their expressions unshaken, as if carved from stone. Then suddenly, without warning, the lead human rose, the chair scraping softly against the polished floor. The sound was small, but it echoed louder than any speech. Every alien voice fell silent, eyes turned, hearts froze. The human did not speak, did not bow, did not look at anyone. He only stood tall, his eyes scanning the council one last time. Then the others stood too, chairs pushed back in unison. The sound sharp, final, a declaration without words. The chamber rippled with shock. Whispers burst from every tier. What are they doing? They cannot leave. No one leaves, not like this. But the humans did not stop. Their boots struck the floor in rhythm, calm, steady like drums of war, their steps leading them toward the great doors at the end of the chamber. The silence between each footfall louder than thunder. The council leader, a tall, scaled being with golden crests, slammed his staff against the floor. His voice rising, "Wait, humanity. You cannot walk away, you must speak, you must answer." But the humans did not turn. Not a glance, not a word. Their leader lifted his chin slightly, the gesture proud, unyielding. Then they walked on, the doors opened with a hiss of ancient metal, light spilling through, and in that moment the entire chamber realized what was happening. Humanity was leaving. Not just the talks, not just the debate, but the council itself, walking out with a silence sharper than blades. The aliens erupted, some shouting in anger, some gasping in disbelief, some trembling with fear. The scaled leader banged his staff again, ordering them to return, commanding them to sit. But his voice shook, his power crumbled, because deep down he knew they would not stop. The humans crossed the threshold, their dark silhouettes framed in the doorway, and then they were gone. The doors closing behind them with a heavy echo that rattled the chamber like a warning bell. Silence followed. A silence so deep even the banners above seemed to sag. No one breathed, no one spoke, until whispers began again, rippling, rising. What does this mean? What will they do? Did we push them too far? The council matriarch, her eyes like burning jewels, hissed angrily, "Let them go, we don't need them. They are only one species." But her words sounded thin. Her voice cracked under the weight of the silence humans left behind. Others shifted uneasily, remembering wars past, remembering battles where human ships had stood against fleets twice their size and won, remembering soldiers who had fought with fire in their eyes, who had not known surrender. The chamber that once felt grand and bright now felt smaller, colder. The empty seats where the humans had sat seemed larger than the rest, looming like shadows, and every alien heart knew the same truth, though none dared speak it aloud. The humans had left, and something had broken in that silence, something that could not be repaired. The council tried to resume. The leader raised his voice, tried to restore order, but his words fell flat. No one listened. Every mind replayed the sound of chairs pushing back, the echo of boots striking stone, the image of humanity walking out with no words, no threats, no promises, only silence. And that silence was worse than any declaration of war. It was a silence that said the council's time was ending, that something greater waited beyond the doors, something no one was prepared to face. The chamber remained restless long into the night, arguments rising, doubts spreading, voices clashing, but nothing could erase what had been seen. The humans had quit the peace talks, and the galaxy would soon learn what that silence meant. The chamber still shook from the silence the humans had left behind. The echo of the closing doors rang longer than it should have, like the sound itself wanted to stay. Aliens argued in their seats, voices sharp, high, and trembling. The leader of the council slammed his golden staff again and again on the floor, but the sound only echoed over the noise. Order, order. He shouted, but no one listened. They all spoke at once, demanding answers, demanding explanations, but one thought circled through every mind. The humans had walked away, and they had done it without a single word. The council had begged for peace, begged for unity. But now the one species whose strength was unmatched had turned their back. The scaled leader lifted his hand for silence. His voice sharp, "We can bring them back. They cannot truly mean it," he said, his tone trying to sound certain. But his golden crest twitched, betraying his fear. He motioned to the envoys, "Go, stop them, call them back. Remind them of the treaties, the promises, the alliance." Envoys scrambled toward the doors, their long robes sweeping the polished floor. They rushed into the corridors beyond the chamber, their voices echoing, "Wait, humanity, wait." But when they reached the grand hall outside the council chamber, the humans were already gone. Their ships had left the docking platforms, silent engines pushing them away into the black. No signal, no message, nothing, only empty air where once the human fleet had hovered like guardians. When the envoys returned, pale and breathless, the truth spilled from their lips. "They are gone." They left without speaking. The chamber fell into shocked whispers again. The matriarch with burning jewel eyes rose to her feet, her sharp voice cutting the air. "Fools," she hissed. "They bluff. They play games. They want us to beg." She pointed her long finger at the empty seats. "They will crawl back. They always do. They need us." Her words tried to sound powerful. But the silence that followed was heavier, because deep down, none believed her. One of the elder counselors, his skin wrinkled like cracked stone, lifted his voice. "Do you forget who they are?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Do you forget the last war, when their fleets burned across the stars, when their armies stood on worlds we had already abandoned? Do you forget the rivers of fire they brought when provoked?" The chamber stilled, his words pulling old memories into the air, memories of battles no one wanted to recall. The matriarch hissed again, "That was long ago. They are only human. They are fragile. They will break without us." But the elder shook his head. "No, they bend but do not break, and now they have bent too far." His words made the chamber colder. The scaled leader pounded his staff again, his voice desperate now. "We must restore the deal. We must send ships, gifts, promises. The treaties cannot survive without them." He looked around at the council, his golden crest dim with worry. "Without humanity, the balance will shatter." The council tried to debate, tried to argue. But their words rang hollow, because every member knew the truth. The humans had not shouted, had not threatened, had not cursed. They had simply left, and that silence was more dangerous than any weapon. One envoy leaned forward, his voice low. "Perhaps we should apologize. Perhaps we should admit we were wrong." The chamber erupted in outrage. "Apologize? Never," said one. "They should kneel before the council," cried another. But others shifted uncomfortably, their eyes falling to the empty seats, because the longer those chairs sat empty, the more they looked like graves, graves of alliances, graves of treaties, graves of hope. The leader tried again, his voice pleading now, "They must return. Without them the pirates will rise, the borders will burn." But no answer came, only silence and whispers. The broken deal hung over them like a shadow, and though none would say it aloud, they all felt the same cold truth pressing in. Humanity had left, and the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. The chamber did not rest after the humans left. Arguments burned hot, voices clashed like blades, and every alien shouted their own truth. But no one could deny the empty seats at the center were louder than all of them. And in that storm of noise, one voice rose sharper than the rest, a voice filled with pride, arrogance, and venom. The matriarch with the jeweled eyes stood tall, her long robes flowing like molten fire, her fingers adorned with golden rings that clinked when she moved. She sneered as her voice cut through the chamber. "Enough," she snapped, "enough of this fear, enough of this trembling over one small species." Her words echoed, silencing some, angering others, but her confidence filled the space. She raised her hand high and pointed toward the empty human chairs. "They think themselves important. They think we cannot survive without them. But I tell you this, humans are weak, humans are fragile, they bleed too easily, they break too quickly, they pretend to be strong but only because we allow them to stand beside us. Murmurs rippled. Some nodding nervously, others frowning, unsure. The matriarch continued, her voice dripping with mockery. Look at them, always rushing into wars, always fighting battles that cost them too much. They are reckless children who never learned their place. And now they storm away like spoiled brats. She laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. Let them go. Let them sulk in their small corner of the galaxy. The council does not need them, her laughter echoed, but it rang false. The counselors shifted uneasily, remembering what she dismissed, remembering the wars, remembering how human fleets had fought when others cowered. One counselor whispered, but without them the treaties crumble, pirates already rise, trade already falls. The matriarch snapped her jeweled fingers. Let the pirates rise. We are the council. We are the law. Her jeweled eyes burned brighter. Humans only made us soft. She hissed. Without them we will grow stronger. But even as she spoke, her words cracked at the edges, because in the shadows of memory, every species knew what she pretended not to. They remembered human soldiers standing shoulder to shoulder when alien armies fled. They remembered human fleets charging into hopeless odds and somehow surviving. They remembered the day humanity's fire had turned whole wars around. The council fell into uneasy silence, her mocking words clashing with the heavy weight of memory. The matriarch saw the doubt and pressed harder. Do not be fooled, she spat. Their silence is a trick. Their leaving is a game. They want us to beg. They want us to kneel. But we will not. We will show them they are nothing without us. She spread her arms wide, her voice rising to a shriek. We are the council. We decide the fate of the galaxy, not them. Her words thundered across the hall, but her voice sounded like it was trying too hard. The silence that followed was heavy, the empty seats still glowing. Like wounds, the elder with cracked stone skin lowered his head and whispered, I fear you are wrong. I fear the galaxy will soon remember why they are not weak. His trembling words sank deep into the chamber, and though the matriarch still stood proud, her jeweled eyes flashing, the doubt in the room grew thicker, because every council member knew the truth no arrogance could erase. The humans were gone, and with them went the balance, the peace, and the safety they had all taken for granted. The matriarch laughed again, but the laughter sounded hollow, and her mockery only made the silence of the humans heavier, more dangerous, more certain. The next morning the council chamber opened again. The banners of 100 civilizations swayed softly in the artificial air. The seats filled with delegates, their colorful robes and jeweled garments bright as ever. Yet the chamber felt darker, heavier, colder, because at the very center, the human seats stood empty, 2 chairs carved from dark steel and wood. Chairs that once seemed too small for the chamber now loomed larger than all the rest. Their emptiness louder than voices, counselors shifted uneasily in their places, their eyes sliding again and again toward the vacant space. No one wanted to look, yet no one could stop. One by one they began to speak, their voices breaking the silence. Let us continue, one said. We must show strength, another added. The council has functioned for centuries before humans. It will function after them. But the words sounded hollow, thin, like dried leaves cracking underfoot. Every attempt to speak of normal business died quickly. Discussions of trade routes faltered. Talks of border disputes ended mid-sentence, because each word was swallowed by the sight of the empty seats. And in the back of every mind one question burned. What would the humans do now? One delegate, a long-necked avian with feathers of silver, tried to read the day's agenda, her voice shaking as she listed issues of resource distribution. But her words faded as the murmurs grew louder. A merchant guild master whispered, but without the humans who will guard the outer lanes, another muttered, who will face the raiders, who will stand against the war clans. Their whispers carried, and soon the chamber buzzed not with plans but with fear. The matriarch with jeweled eyes rose again, her voice sharp. Ignore them, ignore their absence. They are nothing, she snapped. But no one cheered, not even those who once clapped. Their eyes drifted back to the empty chairs. The elder with cracked stone skin finally rose, his voice soft but firm. Do you not feel it? He asked. Do you not see it? The chamber fell silent, all eyes turned. Those empty seats are not just chairs. They are the silence of power, he said. When they sat there, their presence held the galaxy together. When they stood, every alliance stood with them, And now they are gone. His trembling hand pointed at the empty space. And so is our strength. Murmurs rose again, some denying, some agreeing, but all unsettled, because deep down they knew his words carried truth. A young aquatic delegate spoke from her shimmering tank. I feel exposed, she admitted. Our colonies depended on their patrols, their fleets. Without them the pirates will grow bolder. Her voice carried the fear of 1,000 frontier worlds. Others nodded, memories of protection lost rising in their thoughts. The council leader banged his staff, his voice breaking. We must hold together. We must prove we can endure without them. But even he looked at the empty seats as he said it. His golden crest dimmed. His eyes clouded with doubt. The chamber tried again to move forward, to debate, to legislate. But every motion felt fragile. Every law felt weak. The empty chairs mocked them, reminding them that true strength had walked out. Whispers spread faster, some already calling for envoys to Earth, some demanding sanctions, some whispering of war, but none could ignore the truth staring them in the face. The humans were gone, their seats empty, and with that emptiness came a silence no voice could fill, a silence heavier than war drums, heavier than fleets, a silence that warned of storms to come. The council adjourned early that day, their debates unfinished, their decisions hollow. They left the chamber in silence, their eyes still drawn back one last time to the dark empty chairs. And each of them carried the same fear in their hearts, that the emptiness at the center of the chamber was only the beginning, that soon the galaxy itself would feel just as empty without humanity standing guard. First the council tried to pretend everything was normal. Meetings continued, speeches echoed, laws were passed. But outside the shining chamber the galaxy began to shift. The first whispers came from the border colonies, small worlds scattered like dust along the edge of known space, where human patrol ships once moved quietly, their presence enough to keep raiders away. Now those ships were gone, pulled back to Sol after the walkout, and the pirates noticed. Within days trade convoys were attacked. Freighters vanished into the void. Families fleeing frontier towns told stories of burning skies and empty docks. Merchants who once trusted the routes now trembled, sending desperate messages to the council. Protect us, help us, where are the humans? The council chambers filled with these reports. Pages of pleas read aloud by envoys, voices shaking. Yet every time the counselors looked to the center, the human seats remained empty, and those reports felt heavier. The matriarch with jeweled eyes waved her hand. Her voice sharp, exaggerations, lies, pirates are cowards, they will scatter. But the very next day another message arrived. A fleet of raiders had struck 3 colonies in one night. Without resistance they looted everything, enslaved entire towns, and vanished before council. Patrols even launched, panic spread across the colonies, and whispers reached the core. Maybe the council was weaker than it seemed. Maybe without the humans the balance was broken. On distant mining worlds, workers refused to ship supplies, afraid raiders would steal them anyway. On trade hubs, markets collapsed as merchants refused to risk sending their goods. The lifeblood of the galaxy began to falter. In one chamber meeting, a tall avian delegate slammed his wings against the table, his voice sharp with fear. This would not happen if the humans still patrolled. His words struck like a blow, silence followed. Even the matriarch's jeweled eyes dimmed, because all knew it was true. The council had fleets, but their fleets moved slow. Their ships were bound by endless debate, endless permissions. Humans had never waited, they had acted, and that action had kept the stars safe. Without them the cracks widened quickly. Refugees poured into safer systems. Their ships broken. Their eyes wide with fear, telling stories of flags with skulls, of warlords with fleets, of chaos spreading like fire. The council leader tried to sound strong. His golden crest raised. We will handle this. He declared, we will send ships, we will restore order. But already his staff trembled in his hands, because even as he spoke another message arrived. A council fleet sent to defend a trade route had been ambushed. The raiders scattered before them, regrouped, and attacked again. The fleet limped. Home with losses, humiliated, whispers in the chamber grew darker. If this is only the beginning, what will happen next? The elder with cracked stone skin lowered his voice. This is the first sign, he said, the first sign of what we have done, the first sign of the error. His trembling words filled the silence, and though many tried to deny it, to argue, to shout, the truth could not be hidden. The first cracks had appeared, and the galaxy was beginning to break. All because the humans had left. All because their silence had turned into absence. And their absence had turned into fear. The council chamber grew heavier with each passing day. Reports of chaos arrived faster than the scribes could copy them, and whispers of fear crawled through every seat. Still the matriarch with jeweled eyes sneered. Still the leader with the golden crest pounded his staff. But both their voices had grown thinner, weaker, drowned by the sound of failure. Then one evening as the banners swayed in the artificial breeze, an elder rose, his body slow, his skin cracked and gray like ancient stone. His voice rasping but carrying weight no staff could command. "Enough," he said, and the chamber fell into silence. "Enough lies, enough pride, I remember." His voice trembled yet struck harder than thunder. "I remember the last war." Gasps rippled through the seats, because many tried to bury that memory. But the elder dragged it out into the light. "I remember when the fleets of the Krovan Empire swept across the stars like wildfire, when their weapons cut through our defenses as if they were paper, when our colonies fell one by one, world by world." His eyes closed for a moment as if the memories themselves burned. "I remember how we cowered in these very halls, debating, delaying, afraid to act, while the galaxy burned outside, and then he opened his eyes, sharp, bright even in the weakness of age, and I remember who stood, I remember who fought. It was not us, it was not the council fleets, it was them, the humans." His hand trembled as he pointed at the empty chairs. "They were the ones who marched when we would not, who bled when we hesitated, who stood on the ashes of fallen worlds and pushed the fire back." The chamber was silent. Only his voice carried. "I watched them fight with fire in their eyes. I watched their ships dive into hopeless battles and emerge victorious. I watched them lose half their number and still not surrender." He paused, his cracked skin trembling. "And I watched them win the war we had already accepted as lost." Silence deeper than the void spread. Many shifted uncomfortably, their eyes low, because the truth was undeniable. Without humanity the council might not even exist. The matriarch hissed. "That was long ago. They only survived because we gave them technology." But her words rang hollow. The elder shook his head slowly. "No, we gave them tools. But it was their will that turned tools into weapons. It was their hearts that turned fear into fire." He leaned forward, his voice trembling but strong. "And now we have cast them aside, mocked them, doubted them, and they have left. Have you forgotten what happens when they are provoked? Have you forgotten what happens when they decide they no longer trust?" The chamber was frozen. No one shouted, no one mocked, because every counselor felt the weight of his words. Images flashed in their minds, images of fire, of steel, of human ships streaking across the void, relentless, unstoppable. And the thought of that fire no longer beside them but perhaps burning against them made their hearts pound with unease. The elder lowered himself back into his seat, his body weak, his head bowed, but his words lingered like smoke, thick, heavy, choking the chamber. "These are old wounds," he whispered, "and you have torn them open." The silence that followed was worse than shouting, worse than threats, because it carried truth, and every council member knew it. The old wounds were bleeding again, and the galaxy would pay the price. Whispers soon spread far beyond the council chamber, carried by traitors, by scouts, by those who lived near the edges of human space. Rumors that at first sounded like stories told in fear but grew louder each day until even the proudest delegates could not ignore them. Reports claimed that massive human fleets had pulled back to their own systems, not scattered or broken, but gathered together in silence. Their ships no longer seen patrolling the trade routes but now forming walls of steel around Sol and its colonies. Scouts who dared to get close spoke of strange movements. Whole armadas shifting in tight formation. New ships rising from hidden shipyards. Designs unlike any seen before, sleeker, larger, more dangerous. Some whispered of weapons glowing with energy no council scientist could explain. One merchant claimed he saw a fleet vanish into the void without a trace, not jumping through normal gates but disappearing as if the stars themselves swallowed them. His words were dismissed as drunken talk, yet his eyes carried terror too real to fake. Soon more reports arrived, distant listening posts catching strange signals in coded human tongues, encrypted, unreadable, sharp bursts of sound that echoed across systems like warning drums. The council argued furiously over what it meant. Some shouted that humans were retreating, hiding, growing weak. Others shook their heads, their voices trembling. "No, they are preparing, they are building, and they are not telling us why." The matriarch with jeweled eyes slammed her hand on the table. her rings clinking loudly. Lies, all lies. She shrieked. They want to frighten us. They want us to beg them back. But even as she shouted, another envoy entered, his face pale, his scroll shaking in his hands. He spoke quickly, fear dripping from every word. A scout ship reports that humans have built a fortress on the edge of Sol, larger than anything ever seen, its cannons pointed outward, its shields brighter than suns. The chamber froze, silence crashing down like ice. Even the matriarch faltered, her jeweled eyes flickering with doubt. The elder with cracked stone skin leaned forward, his voice soft but heavy, hidden strength. He whispered, they did not retreat, they prepared. He raised his trembling hand toward the empty seats, and they prepared because of us. Every counselor felt the truth strike deep. Humans had not left in weakness, they had left in power. And while the council argued, doubted, mocked, the humans had gathered their fleets, strengthened their walls, sharpened their blades. Their silence was not the silence of surrender. It was the silence of storm clouds building, the silence before thunder breaks. Fear spread through the chamber. Some whispered of war, some whispered of revenge, some whispered only prayers, but none could escape the image now burning in their minds. Humanity no longer as ally but as a power waiting in the dark. Unseen, unknown, unstoppable, and though no human voice echoed in the chamber, their absence spoke louder than any speech. The hidden strength of humanity was no longer a rumor. It was a shadow stretching across the galaxy, and every council member knew, the longer they waited, the closer the storm would come. The council could no longer hide behind pride. Fear dripped through every speech, every whisper, every trembling hand that held reports of raided colonies and broken fleets. And finally, after days of denial, the decision was made. They would send envoys to Earth, not with threats, not with demands, but with gifts, promises, and desperate words. Fleets of decorated ships left the council's heart world, their hulls painted with banners of peace, their holds filled with treasures from 100 worlds, rare gems, endless grains, sacred relics. Even technology meant never to leave their home systems. All of it offered as apology. The journey was long, silence heavy as the envoys approached the Sol system, their hearts pounding with every light year, whispers filling their halls. What if humans refuse? What if they fire upon us? What if this is the last flight we take? Their ships finally reached the border of human space, where once patrol craft would greet them politely. Now they found silence, but not emptiness, for waiting in the black were ships, massive ships, their hulls black as the void, their weapons glowing faintly like suns trapped in steel. They floated in perfect formation, a wall of silence and power. The envoys sent signals, voices trembling. We come in peace. We come with apology. We beg for talks to reopen. Our mistakes can be healed. But the human ships did not answer. Their silence pressed heavier than words. The envoys tried again, sending offers, promises, pleading across every channel. Their voices grew desperate, some even breaking into tears, but still no reply came. The human ships only shifted slowly, their massive guns turning, not firing but watching, reminding every envoy that they stood one wrong move away from fire. The council fleets waited days at the border, their treasures untouched, their words unanswered, and still the humans did not speak, did not blink, did not move closer. The envoys whispered among themselves, perhaps they are testing us, perhaps they will forgive. But deep down they knew, the human silence was their answer. No gift, no promise, no desperate cry would undo what had been done. Humanity no longer trusted them. Humanity no longer listened. The council chambers back in the core shook with each new message. The envoys still wait. The humans do not speak. The matriarch with jeweled eyes finally lost her fire, her voice thin. Why will they not answer? Why do they hate us so? The elder with cracked stone skin closed his eyes, his voice trembling. They do not hate us, he said. They simply do not need us. His words cut through the hall, sharp and final. The silence of humanity was more terrifying than war. For war meant at least they spoke, but silence meant they had turned away completely. The desperate appeal hung unanswered at the gates of Sol, treasures rotting in empty cargo holds, promises echoing into the void, and the council finally understood what they had refused to believe. The humans were gone, and they were never coming back. The galaxy did not wait long to show what the loss of humanity truly meant. Within weeks chaos spread like cracks through glass. Small wars erupted where old grudges had been held silent. Only by the fear of human fleets, border clans reignited blood feuds. Old enemies sent warbands across disputed systems. And without humanity's quiet but certain presence, the Council could do nothing but watch. Pirate kings carved empires out of trade routes. Entire regions fell under their banners. Their fleets fat with stolen cargo. Their crews laughing as council patrols scattered before them. Merchants raised their prices or stopped trading altogether. Markets collapsed. Colonies starved. Fear spread from the outer rims to the core. In the council chamber, reports piled high like mountains. Each one a cry for help, and each one a reminder of the empty human seats. The matriarch with jeweled eyes no longer shouted, no longer laughed. She sat silent, her face pale, her pride broken. The golden-crested leader slammed his staff again and again, shouting orders to send fleets to hold borders, but his voice cracked each time because he knew their fleets were too slow, too weak, too divided. They had always relied on the humans to strike first, to hold the line until others could arrive. And now that line was gone, the consequences spread deeper, alliances broke, treaties shattered, species that once bowed to the council now declared independence. Their voices sharp, if the humans have left, why should we remain? Planets once loyal to the core raised their own banners, daring the council to stop them, but the council was paralyzed. Every attempt at control fell flat. Every order met with defiance. The chamber grew more chaotic each day, voices shouting, fingers pointing, blame hurled across the rows. It is your fault. One shouted, you mocked them. Another cried, you doubted them, you pushed them out. But no matter who they blamed, the truth remained the same. Humanity was gone, and with them had gone the fragile balance. Outside the chamber, in the streets of the core worlds, riots began. Refugees poured in, starving, broken, angry, their voices demanding why the council could not protect them. Soldiers stood guard, but even they whispered in fear. Knowing the council's power was crumbling, whispers of rebellion spread even to the council's own fleets. Officers asking quietly, what if we too broke away? What if we sought protection from someone else? One by one systems slipped out of control, and the galaxy, once held together by fragile threads of peace, now unraveled strand by strand. The elder with cracked stone skin spoke little now, his voice soft and tired, but his words cut deep. This is the consequence, he said. This is the price of arrogance. We thought we could mock them. We thought we could doubt them, and now the stars burn. His words echoed, no one argued, because outside, the stars truly were burning. The galaxy was falling apart, and the council, once proud and mighty, was powerless to stop it, because the one ally who had always stood firm, the one voice that had always acted when others hesitated, had walked away, and the consequence was written now in fire, in blood, and in silence. The chamber that once shined with pride now looked like a tomb. Banners that once swayed proudly now seemed heavy, faded, and meaningless. The council seats were filled, but the voices inside were broken. Counselors sat hunched, whispering instead of shouting, their eyes hollow, their pride gone. And at the center still stood those two empty human chairs, untouched, unclaimed, looming larger than all the others. They had been polished by servants, cleaned each morning, but still they looked darker than the rest, like shadows carved into the chamber itself. The council gathered one last time. Their arguments exhausted, their solutions failed, their voices too weak to hide the truth. One by one the reports were read, colonies lost, trade collapsed, fleets destroyed, rebellions rising, all echoing the same message. Without the humans the galaxy was falling apart. The golden-crested leader no longer slammed his staff. He sat, slumped, his eyes dim. His voice cracked as he whispered, we thought we controlled the stars, but we never did. It was them. His words carried through the chamber like a confession, heavy and bitter. The matriarch with jeweled eyes sat in silence, her fingers still clutching her rings but her voice gone. Her mocking laughter dead, her pride shattered. She stared at the empty chairs as if they mocked her. Her lips trembled but no sound came. Finally the elder with cracked stone skin rose once more, his body weak but his voice still carrying truth. Look at them, he said, pointing his trembling hand at the empty seats. Look at what is no longer ours. We thought them small, we thought them fragile, but it was their presence that held us together. It was their fire that burned away the shadows, and now we sit in darkness. The chamber was silent. No one argued, no one shouted, no one dared to deny it. The old elder's voice shook as he whispered, "They are not gone from the stars, but they are gone from us, and that is worse." His words fell heavy. The council members lowered their heads, some in shame, some in fear, some in despair. The empty chairs remained, glowing like ghosts, and in that silence the council finally realized the truth they had buried beneath arrogance and pride. They had not lost an ally. They had lost the only power that bound the galaxy together. The humans had walked out in silence. But that silence thundered. Louder than any war, it was the silence of judgment, the silence of farewell, and the silence of warning. Far away in the black, human fleets gathered silent and strong, their lights glowing faintly, their guns turned outward, their presence unknown but felt in every corner of the galaxy. And the council knew they would never again sit at the same table, never again share the same chamber. The era of unity was gone. The humans had quit the peace talks, and with that simple act the galaxies. Fate had changed forever. The council sat in their grand hall, drowning in silence, staring at the empty seats, and they finally understood too late. The greatest mistake they had ever made was believing they could survive without humanity. And now the stars themselves would bear witness to their error.